Welcome to episode 74 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Jennifer Burris. Jen is now the former owner of Vox Enterprises. She is the former CEO and owner of the Ivory Closet women's clothing boutique in Memphis, Tennessee, and also was a vocalist, songwriter with Crown Vox. She graduated from Ole Miss in 2011 and later went to the University of Memphis, where she studied music industry. The reason why she is now the former of everything is because Jen and her family are moving away from Memphis to Georgia and to begin some really new, exciting adventures together. Jen, I really appreciate you coming on in the middle of the move.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure. Tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Whew. This one is pretty intense. I'm open about it, and so some people know. But when I was, my first memory was we lived in the Philippines, and in '91 when Mount Pinatubo erupted, and so my very first memories are of surviving a volcano, earthquake, and a typhoon all in one day.
How old were you?
I was like 4. So that's like, welcome to Earth. It's like, okay.
So what happened? What ended up happening with all of that?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to get out. I mean, our home there was destroyed and everything that we owned was gone, but we were able to make it back. My mother, my two brothers, and my dad was separated from us because he was actually doing military work. And so yeah, my poor mom with 3 kids had to get us out of there, and we came back to the US on a destroyer, I believe. And yeah, wild.
Those are some pretty exciting times at a young age.
Right. It's like, all right, here we go. So that's always been I mean, it's been impactful, I guess, for my life. And yeah, so, and it sounds like it's not true, but it's totally true. They did like an interview on the news with the kid, my mom and the kid and us, when we got back, and we were like fighting over a Butterfinger on the news. So
that's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. So I know you're, I think, originally from Hartselle, Alabama, and you lived out in the country for 7 years. Of that time, you said, quote, "I was the rebellious tomboy, breaker of the rules, and challenger of limitations. I never doubted myself when someone told me I couldn't do something. If I wanted to do it, I didn't think twice or ask permission. I just did it," unquote. Where did that confidence come from at such a young age?
Honestly, gymnastics. I had a good grip on physics at a young age. I think, you know, obviously, you know, there's the normal way that people do things, which is walking, right? Or standing and things like that. But with enough knowledge of the environment, you can play in that environment. And, you know, I learned that at a young age with being able to tumble and use force and gravity to help propel me into, you know, to do these really beautiful things. And I think that served as it made me rebellious, but in a good way. I think it made me go, look, I don't have to do that. Yes, it's fine to do what everyone else is doing, but you know, you can play within the bounds of the rules. And the only way to sometimes make something beautiful is to go beyond that. And I think that I guess incited a lot of challenging of what I could and couldn't do.
How old were you when you started taking gymnastics?
Yeah, probably like 11 or 12 or something. So at a young age, you know, I remember walking into the room, and I walked into the room. I'd never done anything, and I saw a girl do a back tuck, and I was like, whoa, that's super cool. You know, and what that is you're challenging the norms of what you're doing something that's not normal, but you're playing with in the environment, I guess, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? And I saw this and I was like, that's badass. you understand enough to do something that seems crazy and it's cool. And I was like, I want to do that.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I did. I busted my head the first time I tried. But I think that, so goes anything that you try to do, making anything that's, learning how to do something difficult. You fall a few times on the way, but yeah, I eventually got to where I was doing it, and I got to the point where I could do things I didn't think I could ever do. And yeah.
So you graduated from, I believe, DeSoto Central High School in South Haven. How did your family end up moving to Mississippi?
Why?
Yeah.
My dad had gotten a job at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And so that was initially the reason for the move. Yeah, we came here for that. And so ended up moving into Mississippi. And I was the first graduating class from that high school.
Cool. What did your dad do at St. Jude?
He was the director of operations over there. And like anything that was like, landscaping and anything that wasn't, actual medical stuff, he was, heading up like construction projects and things like that.
Very important job.
Yeah.
You said, quote, "I remember when my unattainable dream was to be a lounge singer who wore slinky dresses, laid on pianos, and sang 40s jazz at the Peabody Hotel. I developed a strategy and marketing class, and with hard work, I was hired to sing at the Peabody for New Year's Eve in less than a year of me ever singing in front of people," unquote. That is friggin' amazing, Jen. Please share with us what obviously must have been an incredible strategy.
Yeah, well, okay. Honestly, so I was in marketing class, and we had to create something based on, information, looking at the market, and we had to create a product and or service that would be successful. And I actually came up with it in marketing class because I was into music. I loved 40s jazz. I loved listening to Billie Holiday, Etta James. And, I had seen, I can't remember what movie it was. I can't even remember now. And I was like, I want to be a jazz lounge singer. That would be super cool. Well, I looked in the marketplace and I thought that it would be very successful, especially I thought it would be a good, monetary endeavor. You only have two people. You've got a piano player and you got a singer, and then you can do things like weddings and events. And, that style of music is also, good for, high dollar events, all these things. And so I had strategically tried to make a good business model. And I was like, what if I could do it? What if I could do it? And the problem was I wasn't that good of a singer. And but I just practiced a whole lot. And I frankly, it was like, man, I think if I just, keep at this, I don't think that you have to be like an extraordinary singer even. I think your just passion sometimes can balance that out. And so I just knew where I was with my vocal, and I was like, look, I want to try this. And so I geared up my confidence with doing karaoke for an extended period. And then I was like, yeah, I think I can do this in front of people. And yeah, and then I think our first gig was at Molly Fontaine's, and within, like 2 months, I had a booking agent, and we were doing the casino circuit. And I was like, well, that happened fast. I didn't. I was like, I didn't expect that. So it's wild.
How was the night at the Peabody the first time you sang there? What was the feeling?
It was the same feeling of when I did it back tuck for the first time. It was, man, I didn't think that I could do that. And, wow, what do I do now? I think that was the initial there's something very bizarre about like actually achieving a dream, because it's like, okay, now what?
Right.
I don't know how to say that any other
Yeah,
way. It's like,
I
what
know.
do I do now?
I totally get that.
But yeah, it was a very exhilarating thing to be there, and to be, it almost felt like movie-ish to be in, you know, the position to do something that I thought was not possible. Not that long before that. So yeah.
You know, around the same time that you were at the University of Memphis, you started singing Crown Vox, quote, Memphis evokes both darkness and beauty from its artists. When creating my music for Crown Vox, it felt natural to pour both into my work. When I discovered local fashion designer Mary Sue Ambrose, her creations amplified my vision and created a distinct style that is uniquely Crown Vox, unquote. If you would please share with the audience about, you know, some of the music you wrote with Crown Vox and, you know, why that project was so special to you.
Yeah. I mean, I love Memphis because it is a very dark, you know, there's like, I don't know, I think that it's such a dark and beautiful place simultaneously. It's like a heavy and beautiful place simultaneously. And I feel like that was exactly where I was personally at that time. And you know, the music was really therapeutic for me to write something that I felt like came from an honest place. And to be honest with you, you know, you know, when your life kicks off with, you know, surviving some like, you know, I mean, I've had a dark life. You know, I've had both a dark and beautiful life. I've had a heavy and, you know, pretty life. And I feel like meeting, you know, Mary, she too, you know, she was making these pieces of art that I felt like, it just felt like a lot of things aligned at the same time, and our paths crossed at a really beautiful time. And, you know, writing that music was therapy for me. And, you know, I'm glad that I was able to take, frankly, a lot of trauma and heaviness and convert it into something beautiful. And that's what all of that music was at the time, was just processing trauma, frankly.
And, you know, I believe that you and Mary, it wasn't, you know, it was definitely meant to be that you guys, you know, united together, because I call it synchronicity. You know, things happen
Yeah.
like that. They're supposed to happen like that.
Yeah. And she's an incredible friend of mine. I mean, she's like a family member to me. You know, meeting her, you know, was one of the great things of that entire project.
Tell us a little bit about your love of animal wrangling.
I love me some animals now. I've always been an animal person. From when I was a kid, I had a cat and I would put it in like this little doll stroller and push around the house. And I've just always resonated with animals. I love animals. I'm a very empathetic person, and animals are cool. You know, you know, they don't judge you. They just want to hang out and snuggle, you know, like that's super cool. You know, I love dogs. I love, you know, and so especially, you know, there was a point in time in my life where I was like, I want all the animals, every animal. And I think the other thing too is it keeps me busy. And, you know, you know, I had chickens and rabbits, and, you know, I love fuzzy, cute things.
You know, my 3 miniature schnauzers have gotten me through many difficult times the last 12 and a half years.
I mean,
Absolutely.
we don't deserve dogs. I love animals. And yeah, and schnauzers are great.
They're smart. They're funny.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different, 3 different personalities. I mean, they keep me on my toes, and, you know, it's like I joke around. It's pretty much true. It's the most responsibility I've ever had. You know, per se, of taking, because they completely rely on us. Where, you know, a child that's born eventually learns how to feed itself, dress itself, take care of itself. But dogs don't. You know, we have to always take care of them all the way through their life. But it's worth it.
Yeah, I think, you know, so I have a schnauzer and a poodle mix. It's called a schnoodle. They do that on purpose, apparently. And She's great. Her name's Heidi. She's running around here somewhere. But
I've seen
yeah,
pictures of her on your page. Yeah, she is. She's adorable.
She's cute. She's sweet.
Quote, when I see something I want, I jump in entirely with both feet and eyes on the goal. I don't think about how I will get from A to B or all the things that could go wrong. I start and move toward the goal. That's your quote.
Yeah.
How important has it been for your success in having those positive expectations and also setting goals for yourself?
The way it's been, I think, incredibly important to achieve, the way that I view it is like playing darts. I want, as long as I have my eye on the end goal, how I get there is, at some point in time, you have to let go of the dart, right? You can't carry it all the way over, right? You have to go, okay, eye on it, and eventually you have to let go. And by the way, I don't play darts, so if I'm making some weird hand movement, don't judge me. But that's kind of the way that I've seen it. At some point in time, you have to see what you want, and you have to put all of your intention on it. But how you get there, you can't, all you can do is push yourself in that direction, but you have to let go at some point. And, I think that's the way that I view setting goals. And I think that recently, that goal, I have like this overall goal that is that target. And it is, frankly, at the end of my life, what is the life that I would have wanted to live and been proud of and left a positive impact on the people that I came in contact with? What does that image look like to me on my deathbed? Who was that woman? That's my mark. And how I get there is like, all I know is that I know what that image looks like in my head of that person and the way that she impacted the people around her. And that's, all I have to do is the next thing I can do that goes in that direction.
Sounds like to me, since you have a plan, that you're going to get there, and that what the final result you want to be, that if there's any obstacles that happen in between there, it's a quote from an old movie, Heartbreak Ridge: improvise, adapt, overcome. Right. And it sounds to me like that's fantastic. What you do.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's it. You can't, though, because something isn't going, right at that very moment, feel like, well, you're never going to get there. One of the things that I've learned by trying to do so many different things is I've learned how to learn things, which a lot of doing something new is failing. That is part of it, and I've gotten good at failing. I've gotten better at failing through the years, failing and falling and messing up. And, I don't take it as necessarily like a bad thing anymore. I just know that that's part of doing anything that is, I feel like, at least for myself, worth it.
I posted,
I'm going to have bad days with people I love.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, no one's perfect. This journey can be chaotic and stressful, and, I'm going to have shit days, and, and mess up a lot. That's okay.
The other day I posted something about that, talking about how, I've had a lot of successes, written up in the paper several times, mattress stores. Yeah. I had won Best Mattress Store awards 4 years in a row, and all that's great. But yeah. I said, I learned way more from my failures, getting knocked back on my ass, several times, and having to get back up again. That is where I learned.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, because it makes doing the thing that much better. Here's the thing. If I had just been able to walk into that building and do a back tuck, if it was easy, there wouldn't have been any desire really for me to do it. I mean, I feel like it looked difficult, and you know, the falling down, like we talked about, busted my head and that. So it's a good physical representation, I think, of, you know, I would literally fall down and hit my head, or, you know, I would literally physically fall down, and knowing that if I just got back up, looked at what I didn't do right, and made effort to change that I could eventually do the thing that seemed really difficult in the beginning. And failure is a part of that process. And, you know, yeah.
Absolutely it is. You said, quote, "In this day and age, there are no excuses. We have endless information and knowledge at our fingertips. Saying, I'd like to do X, but I don't know how, doesn't fly anymore. You can learn how to do anything you want. Be curious, find the answer," unquote. I think you said that perfectly. You know, if someone doesn't know how to do something today, you Google it, you go on YouTube, you watch a video. It tells you how almost to do anything that you want to do. You know, what happens to people when they buy into those excuses that they give themselves, and they give themselves a way out? How do you believe that people can change that mindset?
Well, I think, how can they change the mindset of feeling like they can't do something?
Right.
I would just say start being okay with failing at a bunch of different things. I mean, I think that I think the fear of failure will stop you from doing a lot of stuff. And I just don't think that it's an appropriate fear. I think that we should embrace failures. I think we should embrace, you know, doing things that are scary. You know, if you want to sing in front of people, but you're scared, there is something exhilarating, right? Doing some shit you're scared of. There is something to me that especially if it's not, you know, going to hurt me or anything, you know, I think that there is something fun about going, oh my God, like, I don't want to stand in front of people. And I mean, I used to have a fear of it, and, you know, it can be conquered, you know, and there's something fun about conquering things that you don't think you can do. So if someone had a hard time, like, hey, you know, I wanted to learn how to sew, but I can't do that. Yes, you can. There is nothing special about me. There's no reason why I can do these things and other, you know, there's nothing that differentiates me, I believe, than it's a person that says they can't do that. I think the only difference is that I challenge things that I think I cannot do, and challenge that. I would say internally challenge it and go, well, let's try. I might suck at this, and I might totally make something that's horrible and it get laughed at. And man, I messed up a gig so bad. Getting laughed at by people is not that bad. It's really not. I have totally there was one show, all my stuff was messed. I had a rough gig one time, and, you know, it put a damper on me for like a week, and then it just, you know, I don't think the fear equals like what actually happens. You know, it's almost like when you're a kid and you don't want to get a shot, but the shot isn't that bad. It's just in your head. You're like, bah, you know. And I would just encourage people to internally challenge that. Go, no, I think I would be proud of myself if I learned how to sew, and it's going to be hard and it's going to suck at times, and I'm going to want to quit, and I'm going to, you know, make something that's really bad. But eventually, once I suck and do all that stuff for a while, I'm going to make a really cool dress that I'm going to be proud of. And I tell you, I can confirm that that feeling is worth all the sucky stuff of going, ha, I did it.
I can relate.
It's worth it.
I relate well to that. When you talk about, you know, you sang in front of people and the nerves and you're scared at first and everything. I've never sang in front of people. Well, I've done karaoke, but you know, that's not the same.
Yes, it is.
I know. I laughed at
myself. It isn't, but yeah.
I knew I sucked, but I just did it anyway. I was drunk. But when the first time I ever had to talk in front of a group of people, it wasn't just a group of people. I sold Cutco knives when I was in college, and
Yeah.
I went to Memphis, and I was asked to give a talk with a company who was having a big convention in Atlanta, and at the DoubleTree Hotel. And I
Yeah.
remember I was told it's going to be a decently sized group of people. Well, in my mind, that meant a few hundred people. When they didn't tell me purposely. I got there that weekend, got there Friday night, and my speech was Saturday, and they told me it's 1,000 people. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I had that fear, but I just said, you know what? I'm ready. I can do this. Go out there, fake it till you make it. And I went out there and did it, and I was fine.
I mean, there's something that's very like jumping out of an airplane about it to me, because truthfully though, I think that doing more intimate shows with my original music was scarier than doing big rooms. Cause especially at one point, like, I mean, honestly, you get 1,000 people, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, and I feel like you do a gig in front of like, it did a halftime show at the, for an NBA game. And it was like, you're just like, you can't even really see people at that point, but it's much scarier when you're like in a room with a person and you're putting your heart out there and that person's like connecting with you and they're hearing you, and it's like, it's very scary. It's very scary. And I feel like sometimes people think it's like the other way around. But I'm like, I don't know. I mean, for me personally, it was that was very, I don't know. That was scary. But yeah, I mean, but that you can do it. Right. You go, oh crap, 1,000 people. And then Heidi, come here. Sorry. Someone's probably walking their dog out front. Or there's a squirrel, which is the worst. Heidi, come here, Heidi. Yeah, squirrels are real. We are completely protected from squirrels in this house, thanks to Heidi. There she
is. She just walked by.
Yeah, Heidi. No.
Sensitivity is perhaps the most underrated quality in the world. It's often associated with weakness and fragility, when it's actually a tremendous strength. Sensitive people are insightful and intelligent enough to both recognize and comprehend their own emotions. And you said this, quote, "The people who cannot sense what is there and empathize with their fellow human beings, that's where the issue lies," unquote. That word, empathize, empathy, it is lacking in so many people today. And I'm glad that I was brought up in a time where it was normal. I can tell that you're obviously a very empathetic person too. And you mentioned that earlier. Tell us the role about what empathy has played in your life.
It's excruciating. I think, and I know that I've been using this analogy, but I hope that you can, I'd like to carry it streamline all the way through.
Sure.
We talked about how breaking rules with the gymnastics, understanding the laws and everything that's there to be able to play within that environment. Well, sensitivity for me, it is a level of awareness. It's understanding things, seeing things that are happening around you, or experiencing things that other people are feeling. And it is an exhausting thing. But I think it is so important to have awareness outside of ourselves. One thing that I've taught my son is I say, think outside of Finn. And we work really well collectively as a team, as a family, because, I think actively trying to get outside of what I want, what I need, and then what's, best for the collective, or, what are other people feeling? My son is very emotionally intelligent. He can tell when something's kind of off with me. And he'll come and sit in, just be like, hey, I just thought you should know today that you're a really good mom, and I don't need you to be perfect. But you do a really good job and you love me. Thank you. And I'm like,
you're 7?
I needed that. Yeah. And like but I think it's teaching him empathy. He's a very emotionally intelligent person. And I do think it's an intelligence. I think it's an awareness beyond the self of what's going on around you with the people around you. And I do think it's an intelligence. And I think it's a skill that you can learn. I don't think it's like, I don't think it's that. I think it's a matter of practicing it, of practicing thinking about how this person might feel. And, I don't know, it's served me in my life and simultaneously been the cause of a lot of suffering for me, because I'm very aware when other people are suffering around me, and I can feel it when someone else is hurting. I can physically feel that pain. It's difficult to do that. It's difficult to feel that, but I think it gives me the opportunity to be able to sort of come in with some, encouragement or healing or love where it's needed.
I've been told, you wear your heart on your sleeve. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And I'm proud of it. And I say
Right.
that because I would rather be that way than be the complete opposite way, which I know many people that are. So I'd rather maybe get hurt a little bit more, maybe be a little bit too sensitive and that things happen in my life. But, it's the way I was raised. It's the way I am, and I'm proud of it.
Well, I think people have a fear of emotion, and I'm sorry, but not expressing emotion because you're afraid of it is not strength. That's just not. Or because you're not aware of what's around you. To me, that's not strength. And so I think, being willing to do things that are scary give you strength, like facing yourself, facing your emotions, you dealing with mental health, things like that. Those are stigmatized things that people are sometimes afraid of. And I'm like, again, doing the things that you're afraid of, man, there's so much strength in that. There's not, avoiding something because it makes you uncomfortable is what I would consider the weakness.
I agree.
I think that if you're afraid to be emotional, I mean, that you're acting from a place of fear. And I just don't feel like that's strength.
Speaking of empathy or a complete lack of it, you were at Target with Finn when he fell down. He hurt his knee and he was crying. He was in a lot of pain. The story ends with you saying to people, quote, "Please talk with your kids. This is unacceptable," unquote. I'm going to let you fill in the middle part of the story about what happened with the girls from Hutchinson and the awesome thing that you did at the checkout line.
Well, yeah. So, my son's 7 and sweet, sweet kid. And he was excited about something. He had something in his hand and he was running towards me and he fell and he started crying. And, he's like sitting there holding his knee and sobbing. And this group of high school girls, walk by and they're laughing at him. And, like, ha, do you see that kid buzzed? And I was like, ooh. And my mommy bear, everything in me was like, don't hurt these children. I was like, they're kids, Jennifer. I was like, however, I felt compelled to say something. And because here's what I saw the problem was. It wasn't those girls. Those girls are kids that are reflections of their environment. Right. And they have parents who have not taught them empathy, because that's a parent's job to do that for their children. And that's, I feel like, I confronted them at the end and I was like, man, y'all's parents need to do a better job, because, and again, I see it as a parental issue, not those people. Those are young people. And I think that young people are very impressionable. I think sometimes young people are, products of their environment, and obviously they do their own thing. But, when you lack empathy at that age, it's because, frankly, the people around you have lacked probably empathy for you. And I feel like, I was upset, but I wasn't upset at them. I was upset for the grown-ups. And, and I may be making some assumptions here, but my son is an empathetic human being because I have taught him how to be that way. I taught him that it's not appropriate to do things like that, to laugh at someone when they're hurting. It's not appropriate, and it hurts people. And, I think that their parents could definitely stand to do a better job. I don't know who those kids are, and I don't know who their parents are. And, but I think as parents, we have a, monumental responsibility to teach our children that the world doesn't revolve around them, that they're not, that the other people here aren't just objects in their reality, that we are human beings sharing this space, and separate individuals who have independent thoughts, feelings, emotions, and you can impact that. You can have, you have the power to make that better or worse for another individual, or make it easier or harder. And I think, I've always wanted to be responsible with that power. I've always wanted to be kind to people, because I know what it feels like to be in an environment where you're just an object in someone else's, their reality. And it's very hurtful to be treated that way. And I think that also gave me the awareness to be able to tell when people are hurting, and, do what I can to alleviate some of that pain, whether it's emotional or physical or,
You and I grew up, pretty much as kids in an era where there were no cell phones. There wasn't the internet. We had to go play outside, or we play with our friends. If you wanted to go out on a date with someone, you had to call them or talk to them in person. There wasn't texting. We had so much more human interaction. And I think that is a big part of developing that empathy and caring about people. But, those girls there have grown up in a completely different era, post 9/11, complete computers, texting and everything, don't have to make a phone call, can sit in front of a screen, can hide, can say whatever they want, things that we did not have to do. So I agree with you. Parents have to, it's even harder. They have to make a lot more of a concerted effort to make sure that their kids are that way, because they have so many other things surrounding them that we didn't have.
I think too, I make sure that I spend quality time with my son, and that there's real human connection that happens there, that I listen to him, that I care about what's going on in his world, that, when something good or bad happens at school, that I'm present, and that I support him on his journey, and I think, I endeavor to be the kind of person that, when my kid is high school age, that he still wants to sit and play chess with me, because we do that together. But, that he still wants to sit and have conversations with me. And I think, again, that, man, I really want parents to take personal responsibility. I think as parents, we should take a lot of personal responsibility, because if you're really just neglecting your kid and they're on their stuff all the time, what else do you think that they're going to do? I mean, I think part of the problem is people are going, oh, they don't understand personal connection. I'm like, you're not connecting with your child.
Right.
I mean, you need to maybe make more of an effort to really care about what's going on with them and sit down with them. And, I think, my son is, God, he's so smart. They're such smart human beings. I sometimes think the only difference between he and I is just, I have more experience at doing this, being alive. And, my job isn't to treat him like an extension of my personality, or, make sure that he does all these things I want him to do, that, he is on his own journey, his own path. And being able to connect with people is something that should happen in a healthy environment, in a healthy home life. And, I think some of these kids aren't getting that from their parents, and they're looking for it out in the world. And that's, sad to me.
And when you spend quality time with them, ask them, put their cell phone down, turn it on
Yeah.
silent, make it quality time. Don't, not with their heads buried in the phone and halfway listening, or the parent is halfway listening. The parent has to put their phone down too.
No, we have a, that's my personal pet peeve. I love technology simultaneously. Again, we're old enough to remember when, how good it is to be in reality. It can be really good to be in reality,
Right.
So I enjoy turning my phone off. I'm notoriously bad at answering phone calls and things like that. I like to put boundaries around my phone. But we play games and we play Uno. We'll be sitting around and I'm like, Finn, I'll get you in a game of chess, All right, mom, like we'll, I'll make him some hot cocoa or something, and I'll have coffee and we'll hang out. And, I think it's like, you got to make for me, there will never be a substitute for real deep human connection. And, I think that it's good to teach. I've had to teach, I think, Finn that too. So I would say that a lot of personal responsibility lies on parents to authentically connect with your kids.
I agree. Absolutely. I agree. Taking that a step further, you said, quote, love isn't being quiet or covering for someone while they take a bad road or being supportive while they do it. That's enabling. Sometimes love requires hard truths to help someone who has taken a bad path, unquote. You told the hard truth to those girls at Target. It's their choice whether they want to listen to it or take it or not. And, you're going to have to sometimes, unfortunately hurt some feelings and tell people you care about, and tell people that you care about things that they may not want to hear sometimes, because the old saying is true, quote, you got to be cruel to be kind. What's your thoughts on that?
I heard a quote one time that says, honesty without tact is cruelty. And I think you can be honest without cruelty. I think the root of your honesty has to be authentic love.
Right.
And, that quote that you read, it was actually, I have some people very close to me that are alcoholics, and it's, destroyed our relationship. And, I think saying, hey, this is a problem, in a very loving way became problematic because, I'm speaking a truth that somebody maybe doesn't want to hear. And that's, but I don't think that love is for me to watch that person suffer and, destroy themselves and then me just be quiet about it and go, okay. I don't think that that's what love is. I think that that's, again, out of fear. I think that's a choice made out of fear of like, well, I don't want to offend this person or I don't want to upset them. But if your root is love, I love you, and you're hurting yourself. And I think that personally, I felt like I had a personal responsibility to say, hey, what you're doing is hurting yourself and it's hurting the people around you. And to me, that was the most loving thing I could say. And I said it in a manner that was loving. And, what you can't really do anything with how people respond to that. But I think I always want to make choices from a place of love and not fear.
I can relate. There's many times that I've had experiences where, I've made some bad decisions in my life, and I've had, and whether they were personal or business decisions, we all do it. But on the personal end, I've had people, family members, close friends, try to get me, get my head out of my ass per se.
Right. Right.
And they can say everything that they can say, but ultimately it's always going to be up to that person, in this case, it was me, to figure it out. There's a point in time where you just gotta, figure it out and make that decision yourself, that personal responsibility that you talk about.
And I think, shame will prevent you from doing that sometimes, of honest self-reflection. And I mean, look, everybody does some stupid stuff. I mean, me, hello, like I think that's a part of the human experience. I don't know a single person. I've yet to meet one that has their shit entirely together.
Right.
Never met one. Never met one human, like across the board, poor, rich, hot, not anything. It doesn't. Everybody's their own individual shit show. Okay, and some of them are more shit shows than others. But I feel like definitely some people have it more together and things like that. But I don't think that there's anything embarrassing about being imperfect. Maybe that's the other thing is. I'm not afraid to be an imperfect person. I think that's part. I think again, that's just honesty. I think that we're all that way. And, I just prefer for, the people around me to know what they're getting.
I see that you laugh at yourself a lot. And I like that. It's like, I say, you take what you do seriously, but you don't take yourself too seriously.
No, look, I am, I think humor has absolutely saved my life, like literally. I think, you have to have a sense of playfulness, towards life. And I am very playful with life. I think yeah, and I think that, I definitely don't take myself too seriously because I don't know. I'm simultaneously put together and simultaneously a total mess of a human being, and I think that there is something funny about that to myself, even to myself. Right? I'm like, okay,
That's awesome. You said, "quote I need the freedom to take what's in my brain, remove it, and drop it off in reality. Creation is my life's purpose." Unquote. Share with us a little bit more about what that means, and also, where your ability to create so well comes from.
Maybe it was honestly maybe a learned coping mechanism for trauma. I'm so open about it, but there's something beautiful about making something where nothing was before. And this is one of the things that whatever room you're in, wherever you are, everything in that room was first someone's idea. Everything was at first it was a person's idea. Maybe it was someone's dream, right? Maybe they dreamt of painting, right? They had a dream of being an artist one day, right? And so that person, it's not just the painting that I have, it's the years of someone wanting to be an artist, and they're buying these canvases and this paint and all this stuff. And so it makes all these things around me. Someone went into design at one point, someone wanted to do things like this, vibing and thriving, like, so, these are all things that people, individuals, made out of nothing. There was not this coffee cup, and then someone decided, they wanted to learn how to make stuff like this and do stuff like this, and then they went and did it, and and then I can have a cool coffee cup. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there's something very powerful about being able to do that. And I can, from an idea, go, I have an idea for a necklace, and then I can go find the materials and I can create it out of nothing. There was no thing there before, and I made a necklace for myself. And that, it taps you, I think, into a reality of that you do have some like impact on your world, and it doesn't have to be, it can be anything. You can get a piece of paper and draw a stick man. There was no stick man before you drew a stick man, but to be able to take that from your head and put it into the world, there's something very powerful about that to me, and healing about that for me. Because, it's easy to get wrapped up in thinking that you're not, you're not powerful, or you don't have any influence over your environment, or there's all these reasons for why we can't do things, and why we can't thrive, or why we can't accomplish that. And I just, you know I always remind myself in whatever room I'm in that all these other people were able to make all these things around me, this chair, all this stuff, right? And so it's almost like, it's just true that you can. And I love creating. I love making things where before there was nothing, or taking suffering and turning it into something beautiful, like with Crown Vox, taking something that was devastating to me and hurt, and taking that hurt and making it, beautiful. And we have that power as human beings. I think that's a beautiful power. And everyone has that power. There's nothing special, again, about me at all. Everyone has that power to manifest things around them. And, it's a pleasure for me to do that and to remind myself of that consistently. And I think to do it as an example to other people.
And setting the example is a big deal.
I think, and this kind of ties back around to adult, parenting my kids. I just demanding respect because you're older didn't work with me when I was a kid. I knew that there was, I think you have to be a respectable person to get respect. And I want to earn my children's respect by being respectable. I don't want to just demand that they respect me. I want to be the kind of person, the kind of woman that my son looks at and goes, you made me believe that I could get the job at NASA because you were unafraid in pursuing your own goals. And that showed me that I could do it too. I'm not, what am I going to do if I never did anything in my life? If I didn't achieve what I didn't even try, how can I tell my son, you can do anything? You can do anything you want. Reach for the stars, son. Go work at NASA. My son believes that he can work at NASA one day because he's seen me do things that were terrifying to myself. And I have earned his respect as a person. And I think sometimes adults just want that respect because they have kids. And I don't think that that's real. I think you have to earn the respect of your children because I think that they are separate human beings. And, I wouldn't respect someone that you wouldn't respect somebody that's just like, respect me,
Right.
I'm your boss, you don't just get respect for that. That's, as an adult, that doesn't apply with adults. Why are you expecting children to be like, okay, they're smart. They're not going to do that either. They will respect you if you're respectful.
I can tell you for a fact that 7-year-old Finn's dream of building rockets for NASA is achievable. I just watched my nephew just this year graduated, with his master's from Alabama, started a job with NASA building rockets in Denver right out of college. So it is definitely achievable. So I just saw it happen.
He won an award yesterday at his school. He got an award of excellence. He was the second, as the second grader, he was the second grader that got this award. And, I look at that and, I feel like, I have done a good job so far of showing him what is possible. And, I take that very seriously. I am very honored by, being the kind of person that he listens to.
Sometimes, and you referred to this earlier about how people that don't, not everybody has their shit together. Things, that look so great on the outside. Many times it's not the same way on the inside. People on Facebook, Instagram, and all that, just most of the time put their best stuff out there. They don't, find out the real stuff. And you've shared, with people that you battled with depression, and you said,
Yeah.
quote, "Every single day is a challenge, and some days I literally live hour by hour. Creativity and humor," which we talked about, "are my life rafts. But Jen, you're so artsy and goofy. How can you be depressed? Blah, blah, blah." Yeah, that's just me doing my best to take the darkness and turn it into light. And that's what my favorite thing on the planet is, seeing the people I love light up with happiness around me, even when I can't, unquote. Why did you decide to open up and be so transparent about a personal issue?
I am well read in psychology, and I looked at the stats, and I know the probability of the internal struggles that people have, and or the probability that either you yourself or someone that has struggled with depression at some point in their life is high. And I have major depressive disorder, and I'm on the highest dosage of medication you can have for it. And it's a chemical thing. And there's nothing embarrassing about it for me. It's not sadness. It's literally, it's just, I put it in the same category of having, like, it's an organ in my body. And, I wouldn't be embarrassed if I had acid reflux or something. That's super weird. I think that that's the same way that I approach mental health, is it's health, and my brain is an organ, and my serotonin drains too quickly. And I don't think there's anything embarrassing about that. And I think that, so I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent to pull it back around for a second.
Okay.
My neighbor is brilliant. She is she calibrates the radiology machine. She's a physicist. And I was talking to her about, what is it that actually is killing the cancer, and she said, when you take like a magnifying glass and you hold it in the sun and you can like burn a hole in a leaf, she's like, it's like amplified light. And I had this like aha moment thing where I was like, light kills cancer. And I was like, man, I know the stats of like how many people struggle with depression. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, these people need to know that they're not alone. I need to shed light on this. I need to talk about this. I need to talk about it because I know that other people are hurting too. And I think, and I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to say I have a hard time sometimes. And in fact, that has driven a lot of the stuff I've done with fashion. I gave a talk recently to some cancer patients, talking about fashion and the correlation between psychology and fashion. I'm wearing bright color right now. I'm a bright and bubbly person. But the truth is, there's some days I can't get out of bed and I have a hard time. And if I can just make it to something bright and colorful, even if I can't take a shower that day, okay? If it's just an off day and it's just not going to happen for me, if I can get to something that's brightly colored or pretty and put it on my body, I feel myself elevate a little bit. I feel better. And, I feel like sharing the things that help me, in that process is a strength. I don't think that is a weakness at all, because
Right.
I know the truth that other people are hurting too. And I don't think that they should have to hurt alone. I don't think that they should have to look at someone on social media who seems like they have their shit together, which I sometimes do, and think that I don't hurt. That's not true. I want people to, you know that it's okay to hurt like that. And there shouldn't be any shame associated with that. It's normal, human thing. We are floating on a ball in the middle of nowhere. If you ain't got some sort of anxiety or depression, you're just not aware of what's going on. I don't know what to say, but
I love that. I love that. It's true.
I mean, if you don't have some sort of anxiety and depression, you are living in a fantasy bubble. It's just, the world can be a dark place and bad things happen here and good things happen here too. But, I think that it's realistic to have depression. I think it's realistic to struggle. I think it's realistic to have anxiety. I think that those things are not bizarre or weird or should be uncomfortable. I think it's a very normal part of the human experience. And I think that we should probably maybe just all stop pretending like it's weird.
This goes a step further with that. You said a friendly and loving reminder that the need to maintain mental health is just as valid as the need to maintain physical health. Your brain is a part of your body, and it too can experience stress, discomfort, or displacement. Never feel ashamed of taking care of yourself and your well-being, unquote. I've discussed this before on several podcasts, but it's such an important topic. And so we'll just go a step further. So it becomes normal. If someone feels like they need help or someone to talk to, they got to reach out to someone and get it. And, we all have stuff that we deal with in life. And just like you said, it can be very stressful, can be very difficult. And in my opinion, and it's what a psychologist that I saw years ago told me, people that reach out and get help, and you referred to this, are stronger than the ones that don't. It is not a sign of weakness at all. What are your thoughts?
And it's honesty. I mean, look, if you're struggling, but you're having denial about you struggling, that's not a step up. You have to be, being honest with the self is hard. It's hard work. It's hard work for me to look in the mirror whenever I've said some stupid stuff. All right. But that's a part of it. Okay. Like, I don't think being a human being requires perfection. I think, being honest with the self and having empathy for others, is so fundamentally important if we're going to do some collective healing. I think our country is in the midst of a mental health crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID was detrimental to, a lot of people were isolated, and, being isolated like that alone will make you, you're not getting connection needs. And we weren't able to see people's faces. You need that for human connection. No wonder everyone was depressed during that period, or that not, so many people rather were depressed during that period. And, I don't think that trying to keep something hidden, even within yourself and to yourself, is ever a good thing. I think I want to be honest with myself when I'm hurting or struggling, or, it takes the power away from it. If I try to, because those emotions don't go away. You're just avoiding them and you're pushing them under a rug and they just like build up, you have to deal with that at some point. And I like to sort of keep that part of myself super transparent and consistently reflecting with how am I doing, and I don't know. I think that mental health is health. Your brain is an organ. There's no difference for me in a medical, from a medical standpoint of like, if you had a liver issue, you're not going to be embarrassed. That's just, it's medical. Like sometimes, like, you broke your foot. Like, okay, but you just need to take care of yourself and your body. And I think it's a form of self-love to take care of your mental health. And because if you can't even face that you're having a hard time, like, that's not a good place to be.
Not at all.
And it'll isolate a person to think that they're going through that by themselves. And it's just not true. And, it's very important, I think, for it. And I think it comes from that place of empathy, that I can feel it if someone is hurting, whether or not they're being honest with themselves isn't, I can feel it. And I always want to be the kind of person that, brings some sort of healing to that if I can.
And it's good that you do that. And I could relate once again, because the same way I've been very transparent, at least the last few years, about mental health struggles, suicide,
Right.
thoughts and things like that. And I put it out there.
Yeah.
I decided
Yeah.
to put it out there. And
Right.
I had so many people, whether they left a comment or they sent me a direct message, that thanked
Right.
me. I know you had to also, because they were afraid, and it made them realize they weren't alone.
Yeah. No, I every time, man, every single time I open that I say something, I get DMs. And I think it's, super important to know, yes, I have struggled with suicidal thoughts too. To say that feels good to say it, because I think in the ultimate thing is that that's not like some isolated human experience. Okay. I think in order to save people's lives, I think it's important to be more open with that. And, yes, I mean, I think that it's important for me to be open. It's important for me to hear other people be open. We're not some sort of lepers or something.
Right.
That this experience is difficult. There are a lot of things here that happen here that, I don't even know that sometimes it's crazy to have feelings like that. I think it's important to be honest with the self and to be honest with other people. And I think it's incredibly honorable that you opened up about that. And I'll say this, I don't think I've ever said publicly that I struggled with suicidal thoughts. I actually attempted suicide, but because you said it, okay, because of your honesty and your openness, I feel more comfortable being open. And I think there is power in that, to be with other people and to be honest with them and to let them know that they're not alone. And I think it can be life-saving.
Absolutely. And if someone is having, any kind of suicidal thoughts, I say that call the National Suicide Hotline. It's just three numbers down. It's 988. And if you're having those thoughts, if you don't feel like you have somebody that you can talk to, they're there 24 hours a day. So dial those three numbers if you're having those thoughts, please.
Definitely. And if you are, you're not alone.
Right.
And that's definitely, don't feel any shame or guilt over having those feelings. I do believe that with me, that sometimes those have come in waves, and sometimes it's circumstantial, something will be happening in my life or something like that. But again, I think it's like for me, if I'm patient, I recognize, I have the awareness that I'm having a hard time, and I let it come and I let it go. And I don't judge those emotions. I don't judge it. I just know that that's where I'm at that moment. And I kind of accept that. And I know that it's going to be temporary, because then things will shift as they do. And
ebbs and flows.
It ebbs and flows, But yeah, I think it's so important to be honest about it.
Yeah, me too. December 8th, 2018, Memphis, Tennessee, 17,794 people packed the FedEx Forum on a cold, rainy night to see the Grizzlies play the Los Angeles Lakers. Someone at that game said the words, quote, getting ready to freaking slay the halftime show, unquote. And that would be you. Tell us a little bit about that, the audience, how you felt, and what that was like.
We talked about it before. It was a transcendent experience in a sense that, eventually, how many people were there? I didn't even know.
17,794.
When you have that many people in a place, they kind of just disappear. And it's hard. I mean, there's, again, that took me back. That's how many people that was. Shit, that's a lot of people. Yeah. But I think, I don't know. I'm glad I did it. That's one of the last shows I ever did. And it's, that show is significant for a few reasons. One of my very close friends, my best friend's fiance, was kidnapped the week before and murdered.
Oh my God.
And I found out the day before I went on in front of 17,000 people that they had shot him to death. I'll save any more details. And at that game, in front of 17,000 people, the song that I had to sing was "I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose, fire away, fire away." The strength that was commanded out of me to stand in front of 17,000 people and sing a song about being shot right after. I mean, we hadn't even had his funeral yet. We had been looking for him for a week. It was all over the news and everything. And being in that position, it just, if you look at the pictures of that, you can see it on my face. But when people tell me, I'll say this: if you're thinking about sewing or something and you want to, and you go, oh, well, I can't, I'm just going to call absolute bullshit. Because I was able, man, the strength it took internally for me to stand in front of that many people and do that show, I don't know. I'm getting kind of emotional right now, actually. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That was really hard. And it was supposed to be one of the most, that should be a day that I feel really proud of and excited about. And I don't know, it brings back feelings of heartbreak. And but I know that the people that were there had no idea. And they're looking at this girl dressed up on a stage, singing, probably going, whatever's going on in my life is hard, but she's got it all together. And I didn't. I really didn't. And I really had a hard time getting through that show. And, that's why I think empathy is so important. Because no one knew. No, I just, that was hard. That was a hard show. And that wasn't one of the last shows I ever did. After that, I said, okay, I think I'm done singing in front of people.
2019, you purchased the Ivory closet from your good friend, Alexandra Nolan, having no experience at all in retail. And my new friend who I had on my podcast a few weeks ago, she's great.
She's cool.
That is a real gutsy move, for many people, to do that with no retail experience. But, I believe with your confidence, you knew that you could bet on yourself. Share with us a little bit how the sale happened, a little bit about your friendship with Alexandra and the 3-year journey to what present day where you just sold it all before your big move?
Yeah, Alex is badass.
Yes.
Oh, my baby is, she's having a hard time. Yeah, Alex is she's a fantastic businesswoman. I respect her like crazy. She's, a good friend and a really authentic person. I've been in the circles of like the influencer sphere people, and some of those people are hard to be around. I'm going to be honest with you. It is very cover up all weakness. Here's the facade. It's really hard for me,
right,
to be around people like that, because I just find it to be fundamentally dishonest. And Alex is not that way. She approaches it like it's a business, but she's a credible person, man. I like her a lot. And that sell happened really quickly. I didn't have any experience in it, but I, again, know that I can do hard things and that I can fail at things and still figure it out. So I learned how to learn. And so I knew that I could learn. And so I kind of just jumped in with both feet. I didn't, however, foresee that we were going to go immediately into a global pandemic. So that was a roller coaster.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, that was like, oh, okay. Because we were going to launch a clothing line in spring. It was the first season that fashion never sold. And I was like, what luck. But, I think obviously, that's just from a professional standpoint. Obviously, there were a lot more pressing things at the time. I'm thinking, sure, am I going to live? Or is my family going to live? Or my loved one's going to be okay? What's going to happen? Like, is my husband flies planes for a living. Well, if commercial planes, like if people aren't flying, on planes, like, is he going to have a job? Like a lot of questions, and man, that was a difficult period. I don't see how anyone came out of that without having some sort of trauma. I think we've had a collective trauma from it, but that was a hard time in my life. I know for sure.
February 24th, 2014. I believe that's the day that you and Michael got married. Am I correct?
Yeah.
He's a pilot, as you mentioned, for Delta Airlines. And you said of him, quote, Michael is straight up the kindest, most reasonable and respectable man I've ever met. Dude gives constantly and lovingly to causes he believes in, not only with his means, but also with his time. He's truly dedicated his entire life to religious convictions and lives them fully and honestly every single day, unquote. Sounds like a pretty incredible man.
He is. He is. He's not a perfect person. We already went through that. Nobody's perfect. Right. And I don't want to paint him as if he's perfect. But, again, he is a man who can be honest with himself about what's going on internally. And we have honest conversations, and I respect him because he's a respectable individual. And I think that, a lot of times in relationships, people will just want respect. But again, you have to be a respectable person. So not only do I see him going to church, I see his life reflect what he says he believes. And that is a rarity. Now, I personally, I think it's way more common for somebody to just be like, hey, I do this because and maybe they're putting in effort or, but that man does his best, and he authentically puts 2 feet in on it. And he, and I just have to respect that. We don't believe religiously the same things, but I do respect him, and I do respect his commitment to what he believes. And I think it's honorable. And he's a good man.
Quote, this year I'm a mother of children. What an honor to have these humans in my life. Finn is incredibly charming and super funny. Ava is lovably chunky and a total cola. and Michael has been an incredible father and teammate. I feel overwhelmed with gratitude that these are my favorite humans on the planet, and I get to spend my days loving them. I am totally crushing this mom thing, family first, unquote. Tell us a little bit more about, I know you shared a lot about Finn, but what about Avah?
Man, I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. I grew up in like a verbally abusive household, but being able to be a mom to my daughter, man, first of all, I love my kids. They're super cool and I enjoy being around them. Some parents don't like being around their kids. And I just think like, man, it's probably you. Like, you're not appreciating your kids. You're not spending enough time with them. Like maybe you're the problem. But I love my kids and I love spending time with them. And Avah is this, you can hear her babbling in the background. My husband's sitting with her, but she's an adorable little koala of a human being and just as sweet as she can be. And, not to get too weird or deep, but it was very significant to me to have a daughter because, when I was pregnant with her, there was this moment where I realized that as she develops, she has all the eggs she's ever going to have. Right. So she had like literally my grandchildren had already developed in my belly. And I'm like, this is so, whoa. Like it just feels like some legacy stuff to be able to break cycles in my family to, and to honor my daughter, to honor that beautiful part of her, to honor that she's going, I just think that she's remarkable. I think that her existence is remarkable. And I think that getting to guide her is an absolute blessing. And I want to be responsible with that. I want to be respectable with that. And, I endeavor to be the kind of person that my daughter wants to, still hang out with when she gets older. And I hope I make her proud. And that I fully believe that she's, going to do some great things. She's already really smart and, she's got everything ahead of her.
By the time this podcast airs, you guys will be in your new home in Georgia on the golf course. I want to read something you posted recently. Dear Memphis, before I go, I must speak honestly with you. Collectively, you must learn to see others in the community succeed and be authentically happy for them. Another person having success, getting attention, receiving love, and feeling beautiful does not mean that you cannot receive those things or be what you want. They are not finite. They do not take away from you or your worth for someone else to be doing well. It helps your community thrive and lifts all members, including you. There's a mindset of scarcity here, and that mindset will ever hinder growth. You, however, can personally change that. Be authentically supportive of those around you. The next time you see someone that has something you don't, mindfully switch the tinge of envy into feelings of appreciation, admiration for that person. Just try it. The next time you see or hear someone attempting to tear down a member of your community who's successful, happy, and thriving, say something, or at the minimum, don't participate, because that person is stunting your community. It's okay to see someone having something nice and be happy for them, even if it's something you don't have yet. Lift each other, you will be lifted. All my love, Jen. I love those last words. Lift each other, you will be lifted. Just perfect.
Thank you. I mean, I think that, man, and again, it's a very human thing to have jealousy issues, to have envy issues. I have them too. I will look at, somebody's on vacation. I'm like, shit, it looks like they're having a better time than me, and it just, this is normal to feel that way, to look at someone that has something that, they got a nicer car than I do. They have a nicer house than I do. And have the impulse to allow that to make you feel worse. That's an internal thing though. I mean, that person existing and thriving does not take anything away from you. You're doing that to yourself. That's not appropriate. That's a self-reflection, internal work thing. And, if I had walked in to to that room and saw these girls doing flips and said, I want to do that. And so I just went around pushing over all the girls that were trying to do. That doesn't help me learn how to do a back tuck. Okay. You just go, that's cool what you're doing. You know, you're playing shows and I want to be able to do that. That looks really cool. You don't have to push over anyone that's doing anything. You know, someone once said that the fashion industry here is very cutthroat. And I'm like, it's just not though. Not if you're doing a good job or you're knowledgeable or you know, I mean, yes, there are people that are repressive here. I think that that's part of the darkness in the city, is that people for some reason have a scarcity mindset and feel like they have to repress other people that are thriving or doing well. And I just don't think that that's an intelligent outlook. I think I said that out loud. I should have probably not said that. But I think it's more, hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, Mike.
But I think it's more of an honest, I think it's just more, someone doing really well is a good thing. I mean, I know that there have been times in my life where I was struggling in like my romantic relationship or something like that. And you see someone that's like snuggling and you're like, that bitch, you know, you know, and I get that, you know, it's hard for me to see people that are my age that have a really good relationship with their parents. That sucks because I don't, and I'm never going to have that. And that's hard. It's hard. It really is. And, you know, but I don't feel like that person shouldn't have a good relationship with their parents because I don't, right? Like I try to do self-reflection and figure out ways that that's a pinpoint to me, that it shows me like, you know, maybe something I'm sad about, or some, you know, it's reflective of, well, what do you want that you know, instead of, you know, hating the girl that's got the six pack, maybe what you want is to be more physically fit. And I think that's a good thing to take away from that. I don't think that you have to talk crap about, she shouldn't be wearing those shorts. Like, who cares? You know, if you feel some sort of way, because I feel some kind of way. If I feel some kind of way about seeing somebody with a six pack, or she looking real good in that dress, and I feel some kind of way about it, maybe that's reflective to me that I want to get in better shape, right? And I don't think that there's anything wrong about taking envy, recognizing it, because it's awareness, recognizing that you're feeling jealous of someone, and then converting it into goals for yourself. You know, you don't have to, you know, treating that person like crap isn't going to make them any less physically fit.
Right.
It's just, you know, trying to pull them down isn't going to, it's just recognize that, you know, that person has a boat. Well, maybe one day I would like to have a boat, or, you know, I don't know, think of, you know, and then try to think of goals for how you can attain that instead of being mad at someone else for having it. And I do think there's a scarcity mindset here. And I hope that, you know, I just don't think it's true. I don't think it's true. I think there's enough room to play in this environment. There's enough room to coexist with other people who are also successful and thriving and getting attention and that are attractive and are whatever. Like there's enough space for us. And I personally love seeing people be happy. My best friend, the one whose fiance got murdered, she just got married. And watching her get married was one of the best days of my life, because it was like seeing someone, you know, rise back up and just be happy. It was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. And she deserved it. And, you know, I hopefully will come to a place where, you know, again, with my empathy, when the people around me are happier, I feel better. I feel good that they're doing well, that they're succeeding and thriving. And, you know, I want them to do better than me, you know, because here's the thing. When someone like Alexandra Nicole does better than me, she gives me shout outs, and people interview me, you know, right. She's so beyond successful and so good at what she does. And she deserves the attention and the love and the admiration that she gets. And I think that people should be stronger and be able to say that for people, because I think it's weakness, again, to not be honest with the self about what you're feeling, right?
Yep.
And I think to recognize when you have envy, address it instead of trying to take people down. Recognize that that's a you thing and do some healing on it.
What's the most important lesson that you think you've learned in life?
To laugh. I laugh at everything. You know, I just, things can get real dark real quick for me. And I have to be able to laugh at myself and at scenarios, and not take things too seriously, or else you'll be offended by everything. And that's another level that I don't want.
Right.
I want to be able to be the butt of somebody's joke. I want to have the confidence that someone can make fun of me and it doesn't crush me. Okay. I feel like that's a strength. Again, I like being able to laugh at myself and even have other people laugh at me. I've failed at several things. I've been laughed at, right? And, I think it's like, it doesn't really bother me. And I think if you take away the power of it bothering you, then that's a really powerful place to be, I guess. Like, all right, I love to laugh. I laugh at myself. I laugh at others. Me and my best friend, we got the darkest sense of humor now. And we just, I think it's just maybe also a coping survival technique.
Sure.
But I mean, it served me well. So I'd rather laugh than, be an asshole or be bitter or something, I've chosen laughter. I've chosen to be really goofy. I like it.
If I'm good friends with somebody, we're going to abuse each other all the time in a funny way. I mean, that's just what good friends, if you can't handle that, you can't be my friend, because I expect it. I know I'm going to get abused. I'm going to abuse you back, and we're going to have fun.
I enjoy getting roasted. It doesn't, that was like part of, I think that's part of the way that me and my husband show each other love, is we do roast each other. And I do like that. I like that about him.
As I mentioned, when we first came on, thank you for squeezing me in during what I know is an exciting time, probably obviously like talked about a very stressful time too. I never got to hear you sing in person, but thankfully there is this thing called YouTube, and I heard you sing there. I never got to come into the Ivory closet, but I know it meant a lot to you to carry on what your close friend Alexandra started from just $500. I'm glad I had the chance, to meet you in person over Zoom before you and your family, head to Georgia and to begin a new life. And I know you guys are going to make a lot of new friends. And I wish you and Michael, Finn and Avah, and all your fur kids nothing but the best. I look forward to seeing your post in the future and to see the exciting life you guys are going to start down there. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be here with you, and you've done a fantastic job with the questions. And, it really has been a solid interview, and thank you. I think, again, the openness with the mental health is just, it's so important, and you're doing good work and healing work, and that's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Best of luck to you guys.
Thanks.
You take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.